What's that big goal that's going on in your world right now? What's the big, hairy, audacious goal that you want to achieve that you've been saying, I'm going to, I want to, I will, one day I'll do? What if today you shift it to, I did, or I am? Shift your language and change your life. It's that simple. Well, hello there, my friends, and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator Podcast. In this episode today, I want to speak into something that I think is misunderstood significantly by most people, especially in business. And this is something that I've been speaking about a little bit over the last few months, and I want to really lean into as I further my Show Up Anyway series, which hopefully will inspire you to step into this incredible journey that you're on, and most importantly, lean into everything that you are capable of being and becoming, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but today. You know, it's really interesting because people think that courage is something that I'm born with. It's something that I either am or I am not. But the truth about courage is courage actually comes from stepping. Courage is something that we grow, and we grow over time. We grow over experience, and courage goes hand in hand as well with confidence. Here's the thing, I've been speaking about my book. I've been speaking about why I wrote my book and how that all came about. And to be perfectly honest, my book being released took a lot of courage, and courage that I had to grow over a really long period of time. But courage is actually a choice. It's not something that happens. And for 10 years, I waited for courage to somehow land in my lap. I thought one day I'll have the courage and I'll have the confidence to put my book out there. And it wasn't until someone said to me, Sam, courage and confidence comes with stepping. You choose to have courage. You don't simply have it. But the more you choose to have courage, the more that it's going to feel natural and normal to you. And so 6 months ago, I stepped. I made the choice to have the courage to do something big and bold. And I can tell you the learning experience of that has been immense. But guess what else? Writing my next book suddenly doesn't become such a scary experience because I stepped. I had the courage through choice to give it a go. And I want to speak into this today because confidence doesn't simply happen. Courage doesn't simply happen. It doesn't land in your lap. It's something you choose to have. But you might be listening to this going, well, that's all good and easy for you to say, Sam. You've got a lot more courage and confidence than I have right now. And I want to tell you, I don't. I simply choose to, but I want to give you a few strategies today and a little bit more understanding to help you get why it's important and actually critical that you have the courage to show up as you grow this business of yours, that you have the courage and confidence to show up online, that you have the courage and confidence to talk to people about what you're passionate about, to share the message about the business that you have, to share the incredible products that you have at your fingertips. If you don't step up and have the courage and the confidence to share those messages with other people, I want you to think about it this way. Tough Love Sam coming in here. Little quick warning. It's actually selfish for you not to. Because by you stepping up to everything that you were put here to be, to every bit of who you truly are, you could very well be negatively impacting somebody else by not stepping into that. What I mean by that is there could be someone out there right now who needs a life-changing business opportunity to shift them from where they are to where they need to be. And you are that very person that they are waiting on to show up. But for you to show up, you're waiting for the courage to do it. You're waiting for the courage and the confidence to have that conversation, to pick the phone up, to send the message, to put the post on social media. I want you to remember that you only ever need to be one step ahead of the next person in order to have an immense impact on somebody else's life. And so today, if nothing else, I hope that this episode gives you just one tiny little extra grain of confidence or courage to do the next thing that you need to do, because that's all that matters. It's not the thing that you need to do that's huge, that moves mountains. That can be overwhelming and definitely very crippling when you're looking at something huge and you're thinking, I don't know how to build the confidence or the courage to do that big thing. Maybe there is a time and a place for you to take those big steps. But today I don't want this to be about the big steps. I want it to be about the little things. I talk a lot in these podcast episodes and in my online trainings and in my book about the 1 degree shift. In Australia, I call it the 2 millimeter shift, but I actually changed that language because I realized that in various different countries you use different measurements. So we now call it the 1 degree shift, but it's as simple as this. The people that are most successful in the world, the people that grow the biggest businesses, that have the greatest impact, are not the people who do big things every now and again. They're not the people who have the courage to move the mountains. I mean, that's important from time to time, but it's the people who consistently make those little 2 millimeter or 1 degree shifts in their personal growth, in their needle moving in their business, in what they're capable of, in their skill sets. It's the people that say, today, how do I move? How do I improve? How do I grow by 1 degree? And so each week, for example, when you're looking at your social media and you're thinking, what do I need to do next? How do I do the next best thing? How do I improve on last week? Don't think about overhauling everything. Ask yourself, what's my 1 degree shift? And this all comes from that golfing analogy that I give. So think about it this way. When you are teeing off, and I'm not a golfer, but I still get how this works, right? When I'm teeing off at that very first hole, and I've got my golf club and I've got my golf ball there right in front of my golf club and I'm ready to hit. If I move the stance of my body, the grip of that club, the angle of that club by just 1 millimeter, does the ball shift in its trajectory when it lands at the other end by just 1 millimeter? Or if I change those things right here by just 1 millimeter, does the trajectory of that ball shift by meters, possibly even miles? And we know that that ball is going to move significantly in the right direction, or the wrong direction, depending on how I shift by 1 millimeter now. And I want you to think about this in both good and bad terms. If I go backwards by 1 millimeter, if I don't continue growing forward, if I don't continue improving, if I'm not intentional about what I'm doing every day, about stepping into the person I'm becoming, about growth, about resilience, about confidence, about courage, if I'm not improving those things by just 1 millimeter each day, 1 millimeter each week, what's actually happening? Could I be going backwards by 1 millimeter each week? Remember that the trajectory of that ball doesn't move by 1 millimeter, it moves significantly. So today I want to remind you of the importance of that 1 degree shift. And so as we go into this episode, remember this is about you, it's about your growth, and it's about you stepping in and saying, you know what? Courage is a choice. And in this moment, I'm going to choose to have some courage, whether it's picking up the phone, whether it is putting that post out there, whether it's doing a live, or whether it's moving a mountain, whatever that needs to be. I want to just talk about a couple of quick concepts as we I guess unpack this area of having confidence, having courage. People think that courage is required before taking an action, but it's built through action. Use that book as an example that I just gave you. But I also want to talk to you about the subconscious beliefs that we have. And I want to share a really quick story with you around a journey that I went on where I stepped into this place where I almost, I guess, tricked my brain, but I don't want to think about it that way. I want you to think about this like training your brain today, because the way we think and the self-talk that we have actually determines how we behave. Our language is so unbelievably powerful. And I want you to start to get really aware of not just the big things that we say to ourselves in our mind or even when we speak out loud, but just the words you use. Now, here's the example I'm going to give you. And we use this a lot inside of my Rise Up Inner Circle. We've actually got to a point where I've mentored everyone in that group for long enough that they're now beginning to mentor and coach each other and pick up on everyone else's language when they're speaking about challenges or successes they might be experiencing or even goal setting. Now, let me give you the example and where this comes back to. A number of years ago now, and I've done a whole podcast episode on this, so if you want to check it out, it was called These Feet Weren't Made for Walking. And it was about my journey into running a half marathon. Now, the journey to run a half marathon, to just put this into context, was a huge one because not only was I born with feet that were not designed for walking, let alone running a half marathon, I was actually born with a condition called talipes, also known as club feet, and my feet were bent up to my ankles. They were flush with my ankles. They were trapped underneath my mum's ribs while she was pregnant with me. And so when I was born, they said to my mum that in order for Sam to walk, we're going to need to do one of two things, and you have to make a choice. You either, over the first 3 months of her life, we have to break her feet down with little plasters to bring them away from her ankles and bring them back to an angle where she's capable of walking down the track, or we're going to need to do surgery at one. Now, back then in the 80s, surgery seemed like a pretty dramatic, pretty scary thing. So my mum went with the first option. And over the first 3 months of my life, they broke my feet down with little plasters. She said it was the most horrific, traumatic experience, both for a baby and a mother anyone could possibly imagine, watching your baby just scream and scream and scream every day because of the pain. So for my life, doctors and my mum were telling me, look, with your tendons and your nerves and everything in your feet, and I have very flat feet because of this process, you're probably not going to be able to do extreme sports of any description that involve any kind of repetitive movement because, for example, your ankles and then your knees and your hips and everything are going to be impacted by this process that happened with your feet, which has almost caused a long-term deformity in my feet, if you like. I still suffer from issues with circulation, etc. So what this led to was a lot of self-talk. Over many years, my family is saying to me, look, she's just not the sporty one in the family. Now, I also grew up with a family who were very sporty, right? They did all the sports. They did tennis. They ran. My parents have traveled the world running full marathons, my sisters with them. And I watched all of this, being told that you will not be able to do it, that you're not capable of doing it. And so that became my self-talk. Now, I'm not going to go into the full story here, but what I do want you to understand is that you get to decide what that self-talk is. Yes, we take on the language of other people. Yes, it impacts us when other people tell us we're not capable of doing things. But at some point, you need to make a decision about what your reality is, because this is your journey, your walk. It's no one else's responsibility. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. And so one day, through a series of experiences, again, you can listen to that full episode to hear more about it, I decided that I actually wanted to run a half marathon. And I wasn't going to listen to the language that other people used or my own self-talk anymore. And so I started with this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And nothing happened. I didn't suddenly run a half marathon. Every day I would say to people, to myself, and here I was thinking that me saying I'm going to do it meant that I'm starting to use this manifesting positive language that's going to make something happen in my life. And nothing changed. The reason nothing changed is because the language we use is as important as the action we take. The language we use actually determines the action that we take. And so as I was saying, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to be a runner. What was I telling myself? I was telling myself that running was a future thing that was going to happen because I'm going to do it, not that I am currently doing it. Now, I want you to listen to this for a little moment because this might go against the grain and feel really unnatural to you, but I can tell you this is something that has shifted my life dramatically. It has shifted my husband Greg's life dramatically. It has shifted our kids' lives dramatically. We have seen change in every area of our life by applying what I'm about to tell you. And this is simply a matter of inserting some courage and confidence where sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Here's what I did. I changed my language. One day I got up and I said, I'm no longer going to be a runner. I am a runner. I changed my language as simply as that. One word. I am, not I'm going to, I am a runner. Now, that felt pretty weird to me because I had never run. I hadn't run 100 meters, let alone a kilometer. And I somehow needed to run 21 and a half kilometers. How was that going to happen? So I shifted my language. That was the first step. But here's the really interesting thing about shifting my language. By going from I'm going to I am, it changed this subconscious pattern within myself that said, well, if I am, I need to behave differently, because that suddenly become an identity shift. It's no longer a wish, I'm going to. It's now an identity shift. And so I am a runner translated into, well, I need to hydrate differently, because runners drink they hydrate well, they drink water. Runners also fuel themselves with good food. Runners also train. They get out, they go for a run. And so I am a runner quickly changed from, well, I can't just say this, because if I am a runner, I should probably put my running shoes on and go for a little run, even if it's around the block. Well, I can tell you, my first run wasn't even that far. I ran up one side of the block, about 100 meters. Now, depending on where you are in the world, that's a quarter of a block, right? So I ran a quarter of a block, and that was it before I was dying. My lungs were bursting. My body was screaming. That was all I was capable of that day. And I can tell you my feet were hurting. One side of that block. The next day, I did it again. The next day, I applied the 1 degree shift. And instead of going just one side of the block, I added just 10 meters. I didn't even run 2 sides. I didn't even go halfway around the block. I just added a little, because it's not about the big changes that we do once. It's about the little things we do consistently, because suddenly I was training a muscle. I was actually training 2 muscles. I was training the muscles physically in my body, but I was also training the muscle in my brain that was that self-belief muscle. Suddenly, running halfway around the block didn't seem so hard, so scary, so impossible. But I had to have the courage and the confidence to give it a go. Now, it didn't go, I'm going to run 21 kilometers. It went, I'm going to run 100 meters. Before I knew it, within a week, I'd made it around the block. And within a month, I had run my first kilometer. Within 3 months, I had run the Launceston 10, which was the 10-kilometer run here where I live. And then, again, long story short, it actually took 6 years for me to do my half marathon. Not because I wasn't trained, not because I couldn't. I actually trained up to it 3 times over that period. You'll hear about it a little bit more in that episode. But I actually, due to COVID and lockdowns and all sorts of crazy things, I had to hold my fitness level, hold my ability to run that half a marathon for 6 years. But I did run it just 6 months ago, with my entire family. My kids were there, my husband was there, my parents were there, my sisters, my brother, everyone ran it together. It was the most unbelievable moment of my life, because it was a moment that I proved to myself that courage doesn't happen first. We don't wait for courage, we create it. And so self-belief comes from the language we use before the action we take. The action we take is actually secondary, because our body, and I love this, a really good friend of mine once said to me, the body is capable of going twice as far as the mind says it can. In other words, our restriction is not physical, it's mental. It's what you think first. So my question to you is, what are you saying to yourself? Become very aware of that language. Become very aware of the words you say to yourself. Are you currently saying, I'm not as good as that person? Are you currently saying, I'm not experienced enough? Are you currently saying, I don't have the courage or the confidence to do that? You know how many times people say to me when I get off a stage, I don't know how you do that. I could never get up there and do that. And I'm like, that's why you could never get up there and do that, because you are speaking to yourself that way. Guess what? I didn't set out to speak on stages. Guess what? I melt down almost every time I get on a stage. It is one of the hardest things I ever do. I don't have the courage to get on a stage. I choose to be courageous and step onto it. And my body catches up. My mind catches up, because I'm telling myself I'm courageous enough. I'm confident enough to do this. I also know, by the way, that my job is to impact just one person today, and I probably will never get to know who that person is. It's not up to me what that impact is. All I know is I've got a responsibility in this world to show up. I have a responsibility in this world to have the courage and the confidence to be what I was put here to be. And I may never get to see the impact that has on the person that needed to hear that message, or see me stand on that stage, or watch a process that happened, or just simply change the language they're using because they are listening to this episode in this moment. What if through me showing up today and sharing this message with you, by having the courage before I was ready, before I felt like I was qualified to do it, what if I shared this little story and this message of courage with you and said it starts with what you say to yourself? What if it's enough to change the language that you use today just by 1 degree? And by you shifting that language by 1 degree, you shift your behavior by 1 degree. And you pick that phone up today and you share a message of courage with someone else, or you offer this business opportunity today to someone that needed to hear about it, and you change their life. And through changing their life, you impact the lives of their children. And in 10 years' time, someone raises up that changes this world. That person changed this world because you, in a moment, change your language, change your behavior, change someone's life. And you may never get to hear about that ripple effect or that impact that you have, but know that those moments where you step up and you step in and you change that language and you therefore change your behavior by going from I'm going to, I want to, one day I will, to I am. And it shifts everything. What if by me doing that today, by me having this courage to turn on that camera, even though I didn't have the voice for it today, you can probably hear I'm a little husky, and I didn't necessarily feel like I felt ready to do this episode. I'll tell you something honestly, I actually put off this episode for a week because I didn't feel that my voice was perfect for it. Why wasn't it perfect? Because I lost it about 6 weeks ago and it's taken this long to come back. I'm about to go back overseas to speak at an event in a few weeks, and I'm petrified. I'm petrified of getting on that stage. I'm petrified of my voice not being right. I'm petrified of being nervous, of not having the courage. But I know something that I've just shared with you today. Courage is not going to magically fall from the sky and land in my lap. It's going to come from how I speak to myself and me simply making a choice. Today I'm courageous and today I'm stepping in. Today I believe in myself because it's no one else's job to do it but my own. No one else is going to do it for me. Today I'm going to change the world, change someone's life by changing my own. And I'm going to make that 1 degree shift. Today I'm going to do an episode before I feel ready, before my voice feels perfect, before it's all laid out. I'm going to show up because somebody today might have needed to hear this episode. So I want to really encourage you. What's that big goal that's going on in your world right now? What's the big, hairy, audacious goal that you want to achieve that you've been saying, I'm going to, I want to, I will, one day I'll do? What if today you shift it to, I did, or I am? Shift your language and change your life. It's that simple. Courage is a choice. So how can you today, in this moment, not after you turn this episode off, not later on after you've thought about it, but in this very moment, right here, right now, how can you be courageous? What can you do? What could you step into? What choice could you make? What shift could you make by simply changing your self-talk? Guys, that's it from me, because right now I want to leave you to go and take an action. And like with any of my episodes, it's not about what you write down. It's not about the copious amount of notes you take. It's about the action that comes off the back of that. I hope that with every episode you listen to with me, whether it's 1 or 100, I hope that off the back of every episode you do something with it, because I show up here to help you show up for somebody else. My courage, I want it to become your courage. So that's it from me today. Go take an action. It's been such an honor and a blessing and a privilege that you've chosen this moment to join me. I hope that this message has landed and maybe inspired you in some way. But if it hasn't, I also know something really important. I'm here to serve one. I'm here to change the life of one, and I may never get to know who that is. But if this episode has helped you, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. And I'd love to also hear from you about what you'd love to hear more of. So whether it's on our Facebook, whether it's on our YouTube channel, drop us a comment, share with me what you would love to learn more about, how this episode maybe has impacted you and how it's changed the life of somebody else, if you've had the opportunity to observe what that shift might be. But with all of that being said, go right now, my friend, take an action, go impact somebody else's life, and remember, courage is a choice. That's it from me. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator Podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.